Hi folks, first thing I want you to do is go to Moodle and download the file called Cohort Models. It'll be called Cohort Models Blanks because it doesn't have any of the things that we want in it. And so we have a first thing, we have a first year cohort, a second year cohort, a third year cohort, and a fourth year cohort. We're going to be doing a dynamic transition model in here to project out over time what those cohorts are going to look like given certain capture rates and certain initial tuitions and things like that. And I've misspelled tuition, typed it in here. So let's go ahead and fix that typo there with TUI. And then so what we're going to do is each year 400 are going to be added, 398 of the first year students times 85%. That's fall 19 figures. Then they're going to transition into sophomores. 90% of the sophomores are going to make to juniors. 97% of the juniors are going to make it to fourth year students, and then they will be paying on an average tuition. We could have a tuition matrix as well, which would be changes over time, but we're not going to do that. In our initial tuition, we're going to put in $24,400. I just picked that number. There's no relevance to that. It's close to what we advertised, or is advertised by some sites on the web as the average amount paid. I don't know how accurate that is, but I think it's not too far off the board. The first thing that we want to do here, of course, is name our variables. So we're going to select all of these. We're going to go to Formulas and create from selections Mac. It's going to be left column Mac people. It's going to be in your tools and a slightly different location. So what we want to predict is what's going to happen next year. We're going to do fall 2020. And let's see if we can drag that over here for a nice 10-year projection. All right, to fall 2029. And then what's going to go in here is we're going to equal, and that's going to be our incoming, and that should make sense. And we're going to say that's not going to change. All right, we're just going to be able to drag that all the way across, and it's going to be 400. That's our target forever. We might like to grow, but right now, for the simplicity of this model, we're not going to have a growth rate on that. But I mean, I'm sure we would like to. I'm sure that Jason Moran is working as hard as he can to make that happen. So what's going to be there in our second year next time, however, is going to be equal, and we're going to do the B2 times our transition first to second. All right, and then we're just going to stair step this down. It's going to equal our second year times our transition second to third. And in our going to equal the B4 times the transition third to fourth. Okay, and we got to change that ever so slightly because we got to add the people who didn't graduate because they're still going to be here. So we're going to do plus 1 minus the grad rate times the fourth year students. So it's going to be those that became juniors plus those who stay on for another year, and that might be a half year or whatever, but we're going to leave that the same. The nice things about these forward Doolittle models, and that means all you did was do a forward transition with the transition rate model, is that we can just drag it across and it will update all the way along for us, and we see that we fairly quickly we end up in a stable state with 400, 340, 306, etc. That's an equilibrium. That's the equilibrium status. If this was a fisheries model, we would end up with an equilibrium in our cohort rates, and if nothing else were to change, and so we will here we're going to sum this. What are our total students? Equals sum. We're going to drag that down. Okay. That's what we got. We got 1,358 students. We're going to, with the 400 coming in, then we end up with that number going there. And so this is total students. And then our revenues, we're just going to do equal. Let's type in revenues. And there we're just going to be equal the total students times the initial tuition. And again, let's drag that across. And then we're going to right click and we're going to format those cells. And we're going to make it currency. And we don't need decimal points on that, so we're okay. So our 32 million in current undergraduate tuition revenues will grow over time, but I didn't put in the tuition growth rate. And that's a little bit of a problem. So how do we do that? So what we're going to do is we're just going to put in 1, 2, etc. We're going to put in a counter here. And we're going to change our formula above. Didn't want to work for me, so still didn't. So I'm going to just put in equals B8 plus 1 and drag that across. So that's going to give me 1 through 11. And we're going to change our formula here. It's going to be initial tuition times 1 plus the tuition growth rate. And then we're going to the power of the value below there, minus 1. And what this will do is give us 0. It's going to be the same as it was before. And then we're going to see this grow at 4% over time. All right. So there we go. We start off at 32 million and we got 49 million long time from now, but in 2019, so we're growing and that's pretty good. We hope to keep our costs in line, but and this is our base model. So let's hit File and Save As. And I'm going to call mine Cohort, so I get rid of the Cohort models blank, so I keep the integrity of my blank one if I have to go back and use it again. All right, so I've saved, and then so we can now do a few scenarios.